Today's conversation is for the woman who looks successful on the outside, but knows that on the inside, she's been slowly unraveling. After graduating during a recession and just going to the place where I was interning and just being like, I hate it here, and it's not because the people were horrible or anything, but I just felt like, well, if I have to look at what the idea of living in corporate is and thinking about 10 or 15 years from now, is this what I would want it to look like? And the answer was a resounding no. But I think the thing that made it more clear than ever was the fact that I was going to work and I was crying every day. Like, it was bad.
I was driving around with my heat off all winter because I couldn't afford cold storage and was storing my cookie dough in my car and just living a very scrappy entrepreneurial life. And I couldn't really relate to anyone. It was like, oh, we launched into 1,000 doors. We grew our team by 10 people, raised $2 million. And here I am not paying myself for years and doing everything for this business and going into the kitchen for 10 hours and screwing lids on till my hands bled, basically.
We also spoke about how to let go when you realize that the thing you once dreamed of is actually the thing that's keeping you trapped and holding your vision hostage.
I remember I was spending like 2 or 3 nights a week just going and sampling my product, like 3 years, 4 years into the business. And one guy said to me on a Friday night, I wore this like cookie jumpsuit with like a cookie bucket hat. And he's like, oh, I follow you on LinkedIn and congratulations, like you've made it. You must be like raking it in and you must be a millionaire by now and da 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 da. And I literally laughed. I'm like, do you think I would be here on a Friday night handing out samples of cookie dough if I was like a millionaire? It was just so interesting to me because it looks so glamorous and it looked like I was doing really well, but I really wasn't. I was there because the product wasn't selling and I couldn't afford to outsource. You know, when you get memories that pop up? To this day, I took a video and I might post it, but I emailed my bankruptcy trustee to file bankruptcy like a year ago today. And I was sitting in my car eating an acai bowl crying, like typing the email. I'm like, do it, Joel, file it.
Hey guys, you're listening to the JOYrney To Purpose Podcast with Erica Lasan. The road to joy and purpose can feel unfamiliar, uncomfortable, and sometimes, because others don't always understand it, it can be isolating and lonely. For almost 30 years of my life, I identified myself through roles and titles that put pressure on me to perform, but often left me feeling empty and void of purpose. But things got real when I discovered I'd be gaining yet another new title, that of mommy. It was at that point of surrender that I chose joy. Now, as a corporate joy strategist, speaker, and executive coach, I help working women, mothers, and caregivers in transitional phases of life find joy, purpose, and healing in what's next. In this podcast, we dive deep into stories, lessons, and transparent conversations to uncover vision manifesting joy gems that are sure to help you rediscover, reconnect, and recommit to your purpose and identity in joy. One feel-good thing at a time. Hey. Thanks for tuning into another episode of the JOYrney To Purpose Podcast with me, Erica Lasan. In this episode, I'm joined by creative entrepreneur and serial founder, Erica Rankin. Together, we had an open, honest, and grace-filled conversation around what it means to truly reclaim your identity, your purpose, and your joy beyond social media platforms, algorithm-based performance, and even becoming a slave to your passion-led projects. Does that resonate with you at all? If I'm being honest, at one point, I know that was a part of my story. So I am so stoked about this conversation because at its core, this conversation is really about faith, freedom, and the courage it takes to admit when something other than God has captured your heart. So if anything that I've said so far resonates with you, then trust and believe, friend, you are in the right place. Whether you're a mother, a founder, a caregiver, or even an executive navigating a season of transition, my prayer is that this episode is an invitation for you to come home to yourself and accept God's call to rest, wander, and trust as He prepares you for what's next. Let's dive in. Today we have a very special guest. She also happens to be another Erica, and we know that all Ericas are awesome. She is a woman that is definitely on a journey to purpose, and I'm so excited for you all to hear her story, for her to share her journey, and for all of the little nuggets that she's going to drop on you, because I'm sure that plenty are coming. So without further ado, I am so excited and happy to introduce to you all Erica Rankin. Hello.
Hi, fellow Erica. How are you?
Hello, Eric. I'm doing great, thank you.
Uh,
I'm so excited that we're finally able to have this conversation and just for the opportunity to get to know you more because I have been following your journey for quite some time now. And I promise you, every LinkedIn post of yours that I see, I'm like, yes, 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 I feel you. You're saying the things out loud and you're doing it in such a courageous and bold way, which is something that I know a lot of people take inspiration from when it comes to your content. So I'm just really grateful to have you here. I'm really excited and honored that you took up my invitation to join me on the journey.
yeah, of course. And thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's really sweet. I'm happy to be here and happy to talk all things entrepreneurship, authenticity, content, all the things.
Yeah. Awesome. So for many of you who don't know Erica, if you are unfamiliar with her, she has an amazing podcast called the You Are Not a Bad Person podcast, but she's also a really, really, I want to say you're a big deal on LinkedIn. You're like a thought leader. You are one of the top voices. I'm sure that you can share all the things, but for all the people who are unfamiliar with you or your journey in this time and space, would you please tell the people a little bit about you? Who is Erica Rankin?
Like, where should I start? Where do you
Mm,
where do you want me to go? Because it's kind of a tailwind of a story. But I can maybe talk about how I ended up in the space that I'm in now and how we probably met through LinkedIn because I never anticipated on posting on LinkedIn and growing on LinkedIn. When I
mm,
first got on there in 2020, I believe. So 2017, I graduated with a degree in psychology, and I never got exposed to entrepreneurship. My parents work regular 9 to 5 jobs, grew up in a very small town. And I started working in my field and I was making no money. I think I was making $14 an hour. It was contract work. The prerequisite was an undergrad degree. So I thought, okay, I studied for 4 years, paid all this tuition to get a job that I could have easily done, without this degree. I was answering phones, doing data entry, just felt like I had this fire in me that was extinguished for so long. And I would listen to entrepreneurship podcasts at my desk. So it's kind of like a full circle moment. Like I've got into my journey through listening to a podcast. It was called the MF Project, and he does motivational speaking, talks about entrepreneurship, and I would get so fired up in my desk, but then I would just go back into work, and then the same thing would repeat for days and days and days, and then eventually I quit that job, went backpacking through Southeast Asia for 3 months, as every 20-something-year-old does, trying to find themselves. And I think I kind of did find myself. I stumbled into entrepreneurs and I got exposed to that lifestyle. And a lot of the things that these people had in common is that they would be so passionate about what they did. And I never saw that. Usually people are excited for Friday and upset on Monday, and it didn't matter what day of the week it was. These people were just so excited to be living life and doing the things they were doing. And I remember seeing that and feeling that. And when I got home, I thought, okay, I'm going to do something. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the business is, but I want that feeling. I don't want to dread where I work, and I want to
mhm,
be excited every day when I wake up. And so I landed on Bro Dough, which was a cookie dough company, had added protein, clean ingredients. And in 2018, a few years prior, I competed in bodybuilding and I made this product for myself and I would just post it on my Instagram and it got a lot of really good feedback. People would ask me if I would sell it. I was growing my
mhm,
Instagram following, getting a lot of attention there. And it was just something fun that I like to do was just recreate recipes. And so I asked like, what does the market need? What do people want? And then what do I enjoy? And it was this cookie dough. So I started that business and I grew it for 4.5 years. And I decided to start posting everything, the highs, belows, the in betweens on the internet. And I don't know why I chose LinkedIn. I think I went there initially to try to get mentorship because I didn't know how to grow my business. And I raided my pantry and I found a couple products like Manitoba Harvest, like the hemp hearts. I reached out to the founder, Mike Fata, asked him for advice and mentorship. There was a couple other people in the space that I really looked up to, and they responded to me and they got on calls with me. And I thought, wow, this is so cool. Like my favorite product that's like in my pantry right now, I'm getting mentorship from the founder. Like, how freaking cool is that? This is crazy. So the other side of LinkedIn was I would go on there and like scroll the feed and it would just be win after win after win. And I was going on Facebook Marketplace to find moving boxes instead of buying boxes. I was driving around with my heat off all winter because I couldn't afford cold storage and was storing my cookie dough in my car and just living a very
Mhm.
scrappy entrepreneurial life. And I couldn't really relate to anyone. It was like, oh, we launched into 1,000 doors. We grew our team by 10 people, raised $2 million, and here I am not paying myself for years and doing everything for this business and going into the kitchen for 10 hours and screwing lids on till my hands bled basically. So I thought,
Mhm.
okay, can I just like share the reality of entrepreneurship on here? Is that okay? Like, is this the place to do it? And I didn't really second guess it. I just started putting stuff out and it started resonating. And it was more so like an outlet for me because I just felt like more people needed to see what it was actually like. And as I was putting stuff out, then people were very receptive and they're like, "Oh, this is really great." Like I love seeing the reality of what it takes to build a business because people don't usually post the early stuff. So anyway, so that kind of led to my success on LinkedIn. And then I shut down the business last year and then have done a lot of stumbling between then and now, which we can talk about.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. And you did it so
Yeah.
succinctly. Oh my goodness, girl. I love that.
I wasn't
I feel
sure.
like when you're trying to tell somebody your life story, it's like, well, where do you want us to go? But then it's like literally takes you all over the place. You did that in such a tight manner, which I think is also such a testament to the work that you put in recognizing like who you are, what you're about, and more importantly, like what your why is in this season. You know what I mean? And I can resonate with so many pieces and parts of your journey, especially the piece around wanting to be inspired or passionate about something, not wanting to dread Mondays and not only looking forward to Fridays, because that was definitely something that was a catalyst for my journey to purpose after graduating during a recession and just going to the place where I was interning and just being like, I hate it here, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not because the people were horrible or anything, but I just felt like well, if I have to look at what the idea of living in corporate is and thinking about 10 or 15 years from now, is this what I would want it to look like? And the answer was a resounding no. But I think the thing that made it more clear than ever was the fact that I was going to work and I was crying every day. Like it was bad.
Mhm.
It was bad. I don't know if you've experienced that, but it was like walking around during my lunch break crying. I would call my
Yeah.
husband, well, now husband, my boyfriend back then, and like literally he would spend his lunch break with me on the phone and I'd just be crying. I would go to the bathroom, take bathroom breaks, but I wasn't using the bathroom. I was sitting on the toilet crying. Like it was, so I can totally relate to that. And just even understanding the process of wanting to figure out what you're passionate about. I do have a question. So many things about LinkedIn that I want to get to, but one of the biggest questions I have is like, well, why cookie dough? I know that you mentioned like personally how you were in a space of wanting to do bodybuilding and just figuring out what worked best for you. But were you ever a chef or did you ever spend time in the kitchen? Was it like something that was tied to childhood, like nostalgia that inspired the idea of like, I am making these for myself as I'm bodybuilding, but I think I want to make this something I do every day for a really large chunk of my life. Was that a thought that came up or was it really just to satisfy the market?
Yeah, I mean, I was like a chunky kid and loved food and loved eating. I never had really any cooking experience, and I only got interested in cooking and baking when I started to prep for my bodybuilding show because you literally can't eat like 90% of things. All the
Mhm.
things that I love, and I have such a sweet tooth, so it's like, okay, how do I get creative and how do I make this healthier and add in protein? And it became like I kind of gamified it because I'd have a coach and I'm like, okay, what things can I use? And you have macros, so like proteins, carbs, and fats. And I was trying to like make recipes fit certain things. So it was like a game to me. And I would make things that were really healthy and they tasted really good. And I think at the time too, like this was 2018, 2017 when I was posting stuff on Instagram. My handle used to be Erica Foodie and it would just be all foods. And I remember even in university, I would take whatever I cooked or baked to the window of our living room where there was light, the lighting was good, and take pictures for my Instagram. And my roommates would make fun of me. They're like, girl, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm growing my Instagram. And it worked. Like I got a lot of like some of my posts, it's like the one post that did really well was the cookie dough bites that I would make, and they would get like thousands of comments, and I would get tons of messages. And I
Mhm.
always thought, like, I love baking. I don't love it as much now because I think I've served my time in the kitchen. Um, yeah, and I didn't eat cookie dough for a very long time as well. Like, it's not something I love anymore. I definitely loved it more before. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think just, like, looking at and we're in Canada, the market, when you go in the grocery store, especially now it's better, but before, like, 6, 7 years ago, there was really no healthy functional snacks. Like, it was all, like there was Pillsbury or, like, you'd have Quest protein bars. There was nothing that was, like, in between. So, I thought, "Okay, well, I like it. It's proven to be a want by people for, like, my Instagram, and the market needs it." So, I just kinda ran with it. But I didn't do any research about the industry. Like, I knew absolutely nothing, and it's a blessing and a curse because I had so many issues because it was a refrigerated product, and I shipped online because the world shut down, so that was another thing of it. Shipping a refrigerated product online is hard, so yeah.
OMG. Talk about just, I don't want to say being thrown to the wolves, but like a major growth curve, learning curve, you know what I mean? Because also the food industry is really tough. Like I was just talking with my husband about this last night. Just having a restaurant, doing food products in general is just a really hard industry. One, to break into just based on competition, but two, just because the market is so volatile. You know what I mean? When it comes to all the things, the want for it, but then the pricing of the supplies and things like that. So it does, based on even what you're saying, require a lot of faith. And that's definitely something that I want to touch on as well. Gosh, I feel like this is going to be a conversation that's all over the place. I hope y'all are keeping up.
That's
But
okay.
because you also talked about the fact that you'd never been a chef, but you started off this thing because you were looking for substitutes, supplements, or whatever the case is for things that you loved because you enjoyed eating. And you also were in this season of life where you were doing bodybuilding. I always think about joy. I just think it's the ministry that the Lord has given me. The conversation always comes back to how does what you're doing, your passion, your purpose, whatever it is, relate to joy? And the fact that you mentioned that you gamified this process of how can I make something that tastes good, but is also impactful and effective for what I need, and then how can that begin to serve other people, I think is just such a little nugget and just considering what you're passionate about. So were you passionate, would you say, about the idea of building the business, or were you more so passionate about figuring out how to serve this specific need? And did you think that it would resonate as much as it did when you were starting out the business?
Yeah, initially at the beginning, and another layer of this is like my definition of success has evolved over the years as well. Because when I first pursued entrepreneurship, we all have the big shiny eyes and we're looking at all the things and the growth of the business. And you don't realize how hard it is until you get into it and you're knees deep
Okay.
in all of the crap and the chaos that comes with it. And I was a little delusional, and I think you have to be, like, you have to be delulu to just take the plunge, and that was the initial thing. I was like, "Okay, I just wanna work for myself and build this business and do what I love." And as I started to build it out and get a customer base and people were willingly spending their own money on a product that I made and created, that was the coolest thing for me, and seeing people enjoy something and still, like, reach their health and fitness goals and know that I'm, like, putting a lot of care and quality into the products that I was selling. Like, that was something that was really, I guess, a surprise to me because I didn't really know if the business was gonna work or not, and then we started blowing up on I say we, but it was literally me, started blowing up on TikTok and my fake admin that I would, like, send to chase people for money or whatever, like but yeah, I don't know, it was really cool to just see people enjoy the product and, like, their kids too, like, that was a big thing that I never really thought about. It was created for people like me who are, like, more health conscious, but wanna still have a snack, but a lot of moms were buying it for their kids, and then their kids could enjoy it, so that was really cool, and that was a nice surprise as I was growing the business, and it just makes me feel really good too to
Yeah.
serve others. Yeah.
Yeah. BT dubs, I don't know if some of your brodo recipes are just hanging out somewhere, but like if so, your girl would like some. I'm trying to be a 5:30, not even trying to be anymore. I am now. I've stepped into this as a part of who I am. I'm now a 5:30 wake up and workout girly. So, and I love a good cookie. Ask my kids. I, And the problem in this journey of, I don't want to call it a weight loss journey, but postpartum wellness journey, the hiccup, if you want to call it one, is the fact that I eat all their snacks. So I would have definitely been one of your customers. And if you have some recipes, please pass them on over because your girl would love them.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a couple actually that are in my mom's freezer in her basement, like, the actual product that are just there. Like, they're, like, emergency stashed. And she messages me sometimes, she's like, "I took one, is that okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine, you're good." So they're there.
Of inventory, I will gladly just, since you're saying that you don't eat cookie dough anymore and it's not your favorite thing, like, I will gladly take some of that inventory off your hands.
Yeah, I can ship it over, or I should revive it. I don't know, maybe it'll make a comeback one day, who knows?
There you go. I always like that. And especially considering the fact that I think it's so easy to think that the things that we've experienced, sometimes especially after you're going through a hard time. And I know that in your journey you mentioned that, and maybe you haven't mentioned it like explicitly on this podcast, but I know it through your LinkedIn post that you filed for bankruptcy when it came to the business, and just closing that chapter of your life and what that looked like and what that felt like for you. And at one point, if I remember correctly, you mentioned in a post how much of your identity had been invested in this idea of being an entrepreneur. And when I saw that, I was like, OMG, yes, 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 because that is definitely something that I can relate to. I think a lot of people, when you build something that is not only what you feel is your purpose, but that's a whole lot of other conversation around what purpose actually is. But when you feel like it's something that's tied to your purpose and you've gone all in, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work out or it's different than what you expected, and you now know that people are looking at you, entrepreneurship teaches you so much beyond the business. I feel like God talks to me through my business, and he reveals himself to me through how I engage with the idea of being an entrepreneur. So there's a lot of value in that. But then there is also a part of just recognizing how much it can play into who you become as a person and how you perceive yourself. So
Mhm.
what did that look like for you? And what do you feel have been the benefits of having gone through that season? Because I like to think that nothing is ever wasted. Not even I like to think.
Mhm.
I, I talk about the Bible a lot. I hope you don't mind. But like scripture lets
No.
us know that like nothing is wasted. You know what I mean? The things that we may look at um as wasteful seasons or things that we may think are, well, what was the point of that? Everything serves a purpose. So for you and your journey, what was that?
Yeah, no, it's all good stuff. I've always been an overachiever, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs that talk about, "Oh yeah, I was a high school dropout or school wasn't for me," but that wasn't me. Like, I was such an overachiever, and I always wanted validation. I always wanted approval. Like, I was so competitive too. Like, I had horses growing up and had horse shows and would enter art contests and do all this stuff. And I was always seeking like external validation to like make me feel good. And my self-worth was like very dependent on those external things. And even with the
Mm,
business, I realized that I just put so much, yeah, focus and energy on trying to get the approval of others. And even, because you say God speaks to you, and I feel like he told me that I should have quit sooner. Like, I knew I had that feeling when things weren't working, and I also just was suffering, like, my mental health wasn't great. I knew the business wasn't working, but I thought, "Okay, well, if I quit now, I'm gonna feel real guilty. People are gonna think that I didn't try hard enough. I've already gone this far, like, what am I doing if I give up?" And this was 3 years in, and, I shut it down a year and a half later. But it taught me to really understand that self-worth is something that is defined by you, and it's an internal thing, and only you can give that to yourself. You can't go and get it from other places because it's just gonna be like a roller coaster. It's gonna go up and down and up and down and up and down, and you can't have that, like, stable level of like, "Oh, I'm good. No matter what happens, like, I'm good." And it's not, you know, whether the business does good, then it doesn't mean I'm worth more. If it does bad, then I'm not worth less. Like, you need to like disconnect yourself from those things. And that's one thing that I learned. And then just like the shame too. I'm just understanding that things happen for you, not to you. And you can always connect the dots looking back, but never going forward. And I didn't understand why the business wasn't working. I'm like, I'm trying so hard. I'm putting in so much effort. I put in so much money. I like busted my ass for so many years. And why is this not working out for me? And in that business, I discovered a different passion of mine that does make me feel way more in alignment with where I should be and the things that I should be doing. And I only would have found my way here had I gone through the business. So I think like you said, things no matter what, things are gonna happen as they should and they're meant to, and it might not make sense, but you just have to like know like you're good and you're gonna handle it. And you're yeah, like I can't even like a year ago, I was just so ashamed of the bankruptcy. I didn't even want to talk about it. Like I
Mm.
considered keeping it a secret because no one hears about the failures that don't have the comeback story. Everyone hears
Yeah.
about, "Oh, yeah, like, I filed bankruptcy 5 years ago, but now I have this big successful business and everything is great." But what about the people that are still stumbling and still screwing up and haven't recovered from that loss, you know? People don't often talk about it because they're still kind of in that space. So I don't know. I wanted to kind of change the narrative and just show people that it's okay to talk about it. And you're going to have your comeback and you are going to find your purpose and you don't need to hold shame around it. It doesn't need to be this big, spooky secret that you keep from everyone either.
Yeah. I really love that you share this for so many reasons because I think oftentimes when people are wanting to do something different, and especially with a lot of the women that I speak with in the work that I do around joy strategy, it's like an idea of, well, that's so cool, or I would like to do that, but like technically all of these things are happening circumstance, situation, life, right? But I think what people often miss about the idea of where it is that they are and like the vision of where it is that they want to go is the journey. They miss the journey because everyone is so busy looking to the destination rather than recognizing that there's joy to be had throughout this entire process arriving here. Because if you
Mm,
don't feel joy here in this space as you're getting to the destination, you definitely won't feel it there. You like this thing may look like the pinnacle of success, but if it literally sucked your soul dry, stripped you of all joy, stripped you of all rest, your relationships, whatever the case is, then arriving at this destination won't feel as good as you may think. And I love the fact that you are openly sharing your process because I think more than sharing the wins and successes, which is something that we see so often on social media, what you're actually doing is what will help people grow. It because it also invites them to process one, join the journey for themselves. Like, don't just look at other people's stuff. Like, what is it that you want to do? And I love the fact that there's always an invitation for people to reflect on their own process, their own journey, where they are, but more importantly, where it is that they want to be. And recognizing that one, they are not bad people for having experienced like pitfalls of life and stuff, because it's happening to all of us, but recognizing the power that can come from their ability to be transformed if they so choose, or if
mm,
they allow that process of going on and through the journey. You know what I mean?
mm.
So, one, I just want to say thank you for sharing and not keeping your bankruptcy a secret because I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
we're having this conversation, but
Mm,
I also think that it goes so far beyond that moment and understanding and even recognizing that a lot of times the things that one we want to hold to ourselves and bury, the things that we find most shameful are usually often the catalyst for someone else's transformation and betterment. Um,
preach. Yeah. True.
Praise God, because I know I've
Yeah.
experienced it myself. Like, man, coming into motherhood, there was a period when I found out that I was pregnant because I had prior to doing this, I had built this whole brand and career around doing on-air hosting, and I thought that I had landed my dream, like, career, and I was like, "I'm gonna be on television, I'm gonna be doing this, I'm gonna be talking to celebrities," and I did all that, and that was great. Realized that I didn't enjoy doing celebrity interviews as much as I thought I would. I covered New York Fashion Week, and I was like, "This is exhausting. I wanna take a nap." And so just going through that process from the time that I was at that job that I hated, where I was crying every day, to just trying a lot of different things, like wondering where success would arrive, but also recognizing that how I felt in the process also mattered. But then after 7 years of building everything up, I thought, okay, well, now this is it. And then a week later, I found out that we were going to be having a baby, and life just changed so quickly. You know what I mean? Like all the plans I thought I had, now I figured, well, how am I going to be able to do this with a kid? I was freelancing a lot at the time. So I was like, I can barely take care of myself. How am I going to take care of a child? And I was in my late 20s at that point. So a lot of the milestones that people associate with success at certain ages, I hadn't really hit. You know what I mean? So I felt like a failure in a lot of ways. And I also felt a lot of shame. And when I found out that I was pregnant, I often share this, like, I cried for 3 days because I was like, "My life is over." Not that I didn't wanna have a family, because like, my now husband and I, we at that point, I think we were engaged for almost a year. And so it wasn't that I never wanted to have a family, but as someone that was building a creative career in my late 20s, I just felt like now I have to do the thing I don't wanna do. I have to go into corporate, I have to get a boring 9 to 5 job. I'm gonna hate it here, I'm gonna hate my coworkers, I'm gonna be fat. Because I'm having babies, like I'm gonna have acne, like just worst case
Mhm.
scenario. And for a really long time, I kept that time to myself, like in the shame that I'd felt around it, to myself, and just feeling like, well, I don't have myself together. And it was only after sharing it, one, that I was able to let it go. Finally, praise God. But then the things that I would share in the process of rediscovering myself also then brought my people. Like it brought me my vibe tribe, which ended up being other moms that were feeling the same way. And I thought that it was just so beautiful to recognize, well, wow, I'm not trash, like, and also this, I'm not the only one that's experiencing this. And also, there's a whole bunch of us, like, what could we do if we all just like focus on joy for a moment? So, yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that conversation around self worth and validation, so much of it being external. Um, Also very relatable, but I also believe that's something that a lot of girls, women, I don't know, they, I don't want to say suffer from, but experience, just because it's kind of how society raises us to think that we are valuable. Our ability to be liked by other people, our ability to serve other people and serve them really well, being even the idea of the pinnacle of success being after you graduate, your ability to be a good mom, be a good wife. But it's like, what about just being a good child of God, or just being good for myself so that I can pour into those other spaces without feeling like I have to do it by sacrificing myself? And that's definitely something that I experienced as well. I want to talk about this idea of trying so hard in your business, because that is also something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs deal with silently. They suffer silently, and then they don't reach out for help when things are happening. But also just the idea of, I'm going to beat this thing into success. You know what I mean? Or I'm going to make this work, because I've also experienced that. But what what did it look like when you felt like it's time to let this go, and you felt that the Lord was speaking to you and telling you that you should have let it go sooner? What finally made you say, okay, enough is enough?
I think I was 4.5 years in, and, like, the food space is just so hard, like, it and the market and nothing was working, like, my pricing wasn't working for my product. I had lost at that point, like, I probably put in almost $1 million into the company, truly, like, between loans, personal finances, I had investors, and I just kept injecting money into it, and I think it was fun at the beginning because I was ignorant to a lot of things and things were going well, and I was breaking even, but I was doing everything. I was a one-woman show. I was picking, packing, shipping, going into the kitchen, making the product, and then I scaled it into retail once the world opened up after the pandemic because the product was just really hard to ship and sell, like, in the summer with the heat and the shipping costs and the ice packs and all of that. So the first sign that it wasn't working is when I launched a product into stores and the product that sold online did not sell in stores. Like, it was collecting dust, and just completely different types of consumers. The ones who shop online and come and find me are a lot different than the ones that are walking by an aisle in a grocery store. The price point wasn't right. The formula wasn't, what it should have been for retail. There was just a lot of things working against me, and I had to write off like $30,000 worth of inventory. And so that was my first L. And I thought, okay, I'm going to fix the product. So I spent like 100 hours in stores, asked customers' questions. I literally just like studied how they shopped and like watched the things that they bought and the price points. And I fixed everything that was wrong with the product and made a really awesome product, launched that into the market. And then there was another product that was very similar to mine that launched as well that was $1 less on shelf. And obviously, like if mine's $1 more, and the market's very small in Canada compared to the States, it's the population of California except across our entire country. So there's not, as much velocity when it comes to buying, and consumer habits are different. So it basically just wasn't selling. And in order for me to get my costs down, I would have had to like raise more money because you have to make more product, but then you have to have more product to go places. And in order to get into stores in retail, you either do a free fill, so they'll ask for a free case of each SKU or each flavor per store. So I launched into 100 stores. That's like 300 free cases of product. And you're basically just handing it over to them. And then on top of that, you have to go in and do demos. And I remember I was spending like 2 or 3 nights a week just going and sampling my product, like 3 years, 4 years into the business. And one guy said to me on a Friday night, I wore this like cookie jumpsuit with like a cookie bucket hat. And he's like, "Oh, I follow you on LinkedIn and congratulations, like you've made it. You must be like raking it in and you must be a millionaire by now." And da 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 da. And I literally laughed. I'm like, "Do you think I would be here on a Friday night handing out samples of cookie dough if I was like a millionaire?" It was just so interesting to me because it looks so glamorous and it looked like I was doing really well, but I really wasn't. I was there because the product wasn't selling and I couldn't afford to outsource for a demo company because it cost like $300. So anyway, so basically everything just wasn't working and I was also miserable, like, I just wasn't happy. I was waking up every day and was just anxious, and there was always things going wrong, and it was always like, "Okay, how much money did I lose?" I never paid myself. I was bleeding month over month, and I was in a group with a handful of entrepreneurs, and we would meet, like, once a month, and we did this for a year and a half, and when we all met, we were all kind of, like, not really sure what we were doing, growing our businesses, and everyone would provide updates and everyone's like, "Yeah, I did this, like I grew this much. I went to Italy." Like they would also like send things that they purchased and they're like, "How's it going, Erica?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I lost like 30 grand this month." It was just like this constant thing of like I was like the Eeyore of the group. I was just doom and gloom because that was just the reality of the business. And like right before I decided to shut it down, I just had this like gut feeling. It's like, okay, it's time. Like the longer you spend doing this, which isn't working, the like longer you're going to delay what's meant for you. And I had an idea of what I
Yes.
wanted to do, which was the podcast. And I love being vulnerable and love storytelling and supporting people and helping people in that way. I'm not good at operations. I'm not good at managing cash flow and managing distributor relationships and retail relationships. It was just like 70% of the business I really didn't enjoy. So I got on a call with a friend and he's like, "I want you to do this exercise, write the life or your life terms and conditions in detail. Like, what do you want your life to look like? Where do you want to wake up? How many hours a week do you want to work? How do you want to feel?" And I did this exercise and I wrote everything out and I took a step back and looked at it and I'm like, okay, if I continue going down this path, I'm not going to get anywhere near this. Like I'm getting further away from it. So that's a very telling sign that I need to let it go and be okay
Yeah.
with letting it go. And then when
Yeah.
I did let it go and I started reconnecting with people, they're like, "Erica, you're like a different person. I haven't seen this version of you in a long time. You feel like this light, like you have this weight lifted and you have this light back to you." Because I
Yeah.
knew that it was over and I didn't have to like, I was in survival for so long and it was just like, how do I make this work? And also, being a solo female founder is really challenging, especially when you're trying to raise money. Because I raised money the first time, and then I was gonna look at raising money again, and it is so hard, and the amount of conversations that I had with men who were investors or VCs or whatever, where you're like, I had a 45-minute call with an investor, and he didn't let me speak once. And I thought
Oh
about
my
going through that
God.
again. I was like, "I cannot go through that again." I did not start this business to raise money and deal with those types of people. I just, like, have a good heart, I have a good product, and that's what I wanted to bring to life here, and unfortunately it didn't work out, but I need to, like, move on. So, anyway, so that's essentially what happened, and I got out of it last yeah, I think I filed bankruptcy on April 1st and sent the email a year ago today, and it was all done. The chapter was closed.
Hey friend, before we go any further, I want to take a moment to time out and pause right here. Because if Erica's story is stirring something in you, trust me, you're not imagining it. You're probably just realizing that you've been pushing your way through exhaustion, numbing your way through stress, and quietly disconnecting from the things that bring you joy. And if that is the case, I want to invite you to a moment of clarity. I've created a 3-minute experience called the Work Life Joy Quiz. And the question it answers is, what's holding you hostage right now? This quiz helps uncover the hidden pattern mentally and emotionally that may be keeping you stuck. Is it overwhelm that's a result of overfunctioning? Could it be people pleasing, burnout, unresolved grief? Or could it simply be that you may be carrying things that God never told you to? You can take the quiz right now at ericalasan.com/joyquiz. But don't worry, if that's a lot to remember, I'll also be sure to include it in the show notes, okay? Listen, there's no pressure and no fixing, just a little reflection, clarity, and a faith-filled next step to help you move forward, okay? All right. Let's jump back into the conversation. Wow. Oh my goodness. So many parts of the journey that I want to hype you up for because it takes so much. It takes so much, like for real. And I know because I'm just transparently, I feel like for the past 3 years, I've even been in a season like that when it comes to my business. Because I feel like as an entrepreneur, your business also goes through iterations, right? Like how you went from online to in person and selling in stores, just recognizing the changes that are required to build that up, right? And I think that in this season of my journey, I just feel like God is like, lay that down for a season. Like I think, and not that any of it has been wasted, because a part of me has always felt like, starting from maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and if I don't know if you listen to the podcast, but or if anyone else is listening, but if so, then they will hear me talk about the idea of rest so much because it is something where I really believe the Lord has called me to a season of rest and service. But you can't even begin to serve and serve well if you yourself are not rested, because then the result, right? The product, the things that you're producing on the other side of that, one, it's not as good fruit. Like the fruit don't taste as good. It doesn't taste as good for you to deliver it and grow it. And it probably doesn't taste as good for other people to eat it. And that also matters. The process matters. The way you feel in the experience matters. And now, as a mother of three, just recognizing that life looks so different than when I first started this version of my entrepreneurship journey at 29. You know what I mean? And so I just I feel the Lord telling me to do something very different. And it's just so scary. It can be so scary to do something so different, especially when you don't know, one, how it's going to turn out, or you don't completely understand the steps that are required in order to arrive at the place and space that you feel yourself being called to. You know what I mean? And that's part of the reason why at one point I recognized that I needed to put down the identity of being an entrepreneur. Like I hadn't even realized it until God was like, put it down. But I had associated that aspect of my life with so much of who I was. It was almost like something that I led with as a point of pride, you know? And at that point, it was almost like I was like, well, if I'm not this, then who am I? Like, what am I supposed to be doing in my, like, what? And then it was at that moment that I recognized the power of reclaiming my identity as a child of God, and just recognizing, oh, if I am the child of the creator, yes, that also makes me a creator, but there's so much beauty that is involved in just reclaiming that as my identity. First and foremost, being rooted and foundationally having that be what I associate with who I am, but more importantly, whose I am, who my daddy is. Like Jesus says that no, which of you that's a parent would give your child a bad thing? And just being able to reclaim that as my identity first and foremost has shifted so much around the way that I see myself, see the world, see others, see the things that I spend my time on. the things that I spend my energy on, because I look at that as currency too. See the way that I engage in different relationships, and just it really freed me up to the possibility and the opportunity of just leading with curiosity again. Because the
Mm.
thing that I'd started my business on, just the idea of like living joyfully, first and foremost, that had evolved over time. But then at one point, like you, I'm not great with operations. I'm not great with the back end stuff. And it got to a point where I was like, I just want to deliver the stuff. I just want to show up, do this workshop, have people have their joy moment, and I want to go home. I don't want to have to worry about sales. I don't want to have to worry about like selling someone on the idea that seems so foreign. And then the pandemic happened, and then everyone was like, joy, 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 joy. So it was great. But it just really freed me to rest in the process and rediscover myself, but not through my eyes or the eyes of even the people around me, but through God's eyes. And that was so liberating. So
Mhm.
liberating. So I can really understand where you're coming from. But I want to talk about what your faith journey has been like, because I know we've talked a lot about entrepreneurship and what it took to build your business, but you also recently shared online that you were baptized and that you claim Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior. What was that journey like for you? What has it been like for you? What was the catalyst for the experience? And what has life been like since making the decision to become a disciple of Christ? I know that that's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually been a crazy journey. Gosh, I think like when you hit rock bottom, I was just trying to like, because closing the business was really hard for me. I did a healing retreat in Mexico. I did this 12-hour walk challenge where I literally walked for 12 hours with no music, nothing, just a journal and a pen, and had stuff come through there. And it was all about like the identity and wrapping myself in this business and who am I? Like that was the biggest question of last year for me, was like, who am I? Like, why am I here? And I think for so long as well, like even prior to entrepreneurship, I was seeking things in the wrong places. Like I had a bad relationship with alcohol, with drugs. I got a lot of plastic surgery done because I felt like I just wasn't good enough and I was trying to be this version of myself. I didn't even know who that was, but I just felt like I couldn't be me ever and I wasn't comfortable with
Mhm.
myself. And I think it's easy to not be comfortable with yourself like in entrepreneurship because you're just busy all the time and I was busy for so many years, but when everything's pulled from under you, it's like, okay, who are you? Like, who
Yes.
is Erica at the end of the day? Like, what are the things that light you up and what are you grounded in? And those are all questions that I didn't have an answer to. And I just felt very uncomfortable in the silence. But the silence is where all of that stuff comes through and you're able to have that more deeper spiritual connection. And I didn't grow up in a religious household. Like my mom is a follower of Christ. She believes in God, never stepped in church really ever. And I used to joke, if I step into a church, it'll probably burn down. That was something that I would say because I just felt so gone and that wasn't something that was for me. And I think like yeah, I remember being so confused. I moved back home with my parents after I shut my business down, which 29 at the time, moved back home with mom and dad. And I'm like, okay, this is like kind of embarrassing. And I don't really know what I'm doing. And I don't know where I'm meant to go. But I
Mm.
walked down to, I call it my prayer bench. So I go to this little bench that's like by the lake and I sat and I just prayed. And I remember wanting to go to Austin, Texas, because I had friends there and I just felt this need to go. And I'm like, God, like I couldn't find a place, first off. Like I couldn't find a place. It was too expensive. Nothing was working. I was looking for months. And I prayed and I'm like, if I'm meant to go there, just show me, like give me something where it's going to work out for me because if I'm not meant to go, then I'm not meant to go. But if I am, please bring in an opportunity, bring in an apartment with like a sublease or something. And I kid you not, the next day I got a message and this guy was like, I have this apartment. I'm going to leave all my furniture. He left his TV. He left his bed. It was 4 months. It was the exact duration that I needed. It was my price point. It was right across the street from like a workout studio. It had all the things that I wanted. And I'm like, okay, message received. And so I got in my car and I drove to Austin, Texas, and I got a message from a friend and he's like, "Oh, you're in Austin. You should check out this church." And I was like, "Oh, maybe, I don't know." And I kind of thought about it and I thought, "Okay, I'm just gonna go." And I literally Googled, "Can you just show up to a church?"
Oh my
I
god.
didn't know. I'm like, "Do you have to like be a member? Are they gonna
You need an
know? Like, is it?"
RSVP.
I had no idea, and I felt like such a noob. I'm like, "Okay, I don't know." Like ChatGPT, like, what is like church protocol? What do I wear? What do like? I had no idea. So I
Mhm.
go, I show up, and like I sit down, and the pastor comes, and the sermon was all around like I remember I'm an emotional person, but I have a hard time being emotional around people because I was taught to not. Emotions aren't good and you shouldn't do it open.
Mhm.
You should do it behind closed doors. So that's something that I'm really like trying to get better at doing. And I was always seeking this feeling and this thing from all these things like the plastic surgeries, from men, from drugs, from alcohol, from the business, from the validation of my successes or whatever. And I got that feeling in that church that day that I went, and, like, the feeling of, like, wholeness that I was looking for so long, and I just remember, like, crying, just, like, sitting there silently as, like, tears are, like, going down my face because Austin is a hub for people that are looking for community, they're looking for something, and that was what the sermon
Mhm.
was about, is, like, you are trying to find this thing, and this thing, this missing link in your life, whether you realize it or not, is God, and
Mm.
I think that was when I was like, "Okay, I have this aha moment that all makes sense for me now," and no matter what, I was always looking for things to, like, make decisions for me. It's like, "Do I do this or do I do this?" Like, which is right, which is wrong, and now I understand there's no wrong decision in life. You make the decision, God gives you the wisdom to make the decision, and then He walks with you, whatever path you decide to take. So that has been, like, reassuring as well for me, just knowing that no matter what I do in this life, like, he is there, he's gonna help lead the way, I just have to trust in the process, and all of that anxiety that I felt before of what is it gonna work out or not, like, you know, what are the things that I can do to make this work, and if it doesn't work, what's gonna
Yes.
happen? It's like, no,
Yes.
it's out of your control, and what's meant to happen is gonna happen exactly as it should, and I learned that too with the loss of my business. I don't think I would have been happy and fulfilled and joyful if I continued going down that path, even if it was working. Like, I had to get forced out of it to find this new one. And now I'm like, shit, like, I'm a nomad. I'm traveling around. I wouldn't be able to do all this stuff had I still had the business. I'd be stuck in one place, spending my Friday nights in grocery stores, worrying about money, pitching, these middle aged men, VCs, investors, getting mansplained to. Like, all stuff that is in the past that I learned from, but it's not my path anymore, and that's okay.
Mhm.
So the other thing that was like kind of a god, my friend calls them God wink, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, I when I was driving to Texas from Ontario, so it's a two-day drive, 13 hours each day. So I stopped in Nashville
Mhm.
halfway and then drove the rest of the way, and I got into Texas. And like as soon as you get in Texas is so big. Like it's like you're entering Texas, and then 5 hours later you're entering Texas. I'm like, okay, girl, like when am I gonna get there? And I remember my Bluetooth wasn't connecting to my car; it just like stopped, and I'm like, okay, I have like 5 or 6 hours left. Why did it stop? I was getting so angry. And then I thought, okay, I'll just put on the radio. And I put on the radio, and the stations are different from here to, like they vary on where you live, right? And it was a worship station. And I've never listened to worship music, never in my life. And I put it on and I was like, I'm going to listen to it. I'm just going to listen. I'm just going to keep a curious ear and see how this makes me feel. And again, like I got very emotional and I was like, wow, this is something that like I haven't felt before. I'm like very curious, the curiosity aspect of it, right? So that was my, I guess, spiritual journey. And then deciding to get baptized. And I met my best friend in line to get baptized, which is something else that happened. She was right in front of me. And I actually saw her last month. I stayed there for a few weeks in her apartment. And I wasn't going to go. I remember contemplating it. I'm like, that's weird. Like, I'm going in a tub of water in front of like hundreds of people. I don't know how I feel about this. And my friend here, who's a Christian, she's like, just go, just do it, just go. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. And I did, and yeah, I met this incredible girl, and I feel like I've known her for years, and she's from New Jersey, actually. So, yeah, we became very good friends and many little God winks in the journey. Yeah.
Praise God. Oh my goodness, girl. Like, I'm so excited hearing you. I'm like, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Inside, you know, I got to keep it cool on the outside. But I'm
Yeah.
so First of all, I'm so excited for you in this journey and the fact that you're experiencing what the Lord has desired for you all along. You know what I mean? And not just for you, for all of us. I think about this and even the search for purpose that so many people are on. At the end of the day, you can't create your own purpose because you were created with purpose. You know, God has placed purpose over each of us, and it looks different for each of us in terms of how it's executed, but ultimately we're all put here to glorify him, right? In the ways that he's gifted us and allowing us to experience him and experience time here on this earth with him. You know what I mean? So I just think it's so cool that the Lord, he set all of those things up for you so that you looking back would be able to recognize the fact that he's had you all along. You know what I mean? Like, there's no such thing as coincidence. God is so intentional. He had you all along, and that he kind of set these things up for you looking back where you can see his hand over your life. And I don't know, now that you are in this space where you know Christ, you're following Christ, you've been baptized, what has your life look like since receiving the gift of salvation in terms of how you live your day to day, in terms of how you see your future, in terms of maybe the possibility of starting another business in the future, if that's what you want to do, or even just in carrying out this season's journey of having the podcast. You're not a bad person. What does your day to day look like? How is life different as a believer?
Yeah. I think it's less about, again, like going back to the external stuff. Like, I used to work out to look a certain way and eat certain things to look a certain way. And now I look at things a lot differently because, like, our bodies were created, we're temples, we have to take care of them, we have to respect them. Because I think when you honor your body and you take care of your body, it's showing respect to Him as well. And I think I look at that a lot differently. Like, I take a lot better care of myself and then also rest
Mhm.
when I need to. Like, that's something I've gotten more comfortable doing because for the longest time, I was only consuming content that was from, very masculine, raw hustle culture, alpha kind of men, because that's what I thought it took to be successful. And also, women are different than men and they cannot operate the same. And I'm learning about the masculine and the feminine, and I'm trying to like have a slower season for once because I never have really had a slower season. And I would feel very guilty if I gave myself a slower season, but you need to have the rest and you need to take care of yourself so that you can serve others, exactly as you said before. So I think I just am more intuitive now. Like, I just listen to myself and I know, like, hey, I need to slow down, or hey, I need to also follow that voice too. I wanted to launch my podcast for years and I was just so scared because I think that's my calling. Like, even in my early 20s, when I was going through all the things I was going through, I thought I need to like share this stuff and talk about this stuff, and I'm comfortable doing so, and I really should do it. But then there's, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? Are they going to discredit everything that I built? Are they going to see me differently? And am I going to lose family? Am I going to lose friends? And that inner voice has kind of always been there. And then now I want to take it one step further and put out more content, like share more on Instagram, share more on LinkedIn, take it like another layer off and go deeper into it. And again, it's hard because of the opinions of others and all of this stuff that's coming in and the what ifs and the unknown. But I think by having a strong faith now, like, I know, again, there's no wrong decision. Like, there's no wrong decision. And no matter what decision I make, like, I'm going to be okay. And also, I even look at how uncomfortable it was to put out content initially and share my journey, and now I'm able to help others and let my story be a catalyst for others and their stories, and be okay with who they are. And I have to get uncomfortable to do that, but knowing that God is there and He got me regardless has made it a lot easier for me to take steps, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That makes absolute the most sense. And I just think it's so cool that you answered the call. Because I think, like you, I've also had seasons where I feel like I'm meant to do something, but I don't completely understand it. And there is that inner voice. You know, now I recognize it as the Holy Spirit, especially when it's something that comes so from so far left field. Like where'd that even come from? Like, that is not how why would I even want to do that? Or even as recently as this morning, I remember being at the gym, and this whole time as I was working out, I'm like, Lord, I know that I'm building this thing online with, working with organizations, but I just want to do the podcast. I just want to do the podcast. And it's not a me thing because he's the one that planted the seed for it starting in 2017. But when I just think of the feeling that I get from doing this work versus doing the work, building the business work, it's different. They're both work, but one is more fulfilling in a way that feeds my soul and my spirit. But more than anything, I also know that it's eternal work, you know? And being that it's something that I was told to do, it's like, are you going to move in obedience or not? You know what I mean? And then I think sometimes even around what obedience means, because for a really long time, it felt very restrictive and constrictive. If that's a word, constrictive.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. But it felt very restrictive. And it wasn't until maybe a couple years ago that I realized, oh, this is freedom. Like these boundaries that have been set in place aren't actually boundaries because like you're trying to put me in a chokehold or keep me from living my best life. It's because you love me. Like you want me to rest, not because you don't want me to be a productive entrepreneur, but because you want me to be rested in my mind, my body, and my spirit so that I can be the most effective and efficient version of myself. You want me to rest because you want me to be able to pour into others, but not feel like I hate the entire thing. You want me to rest because one, you rested and you've left an example around the fact that rest is necessary, not just by your words, but also through your actions. You know what I mean? And then once I started reading the Bible, it just changed the game. Oh my goodness. Like just understanding how obedience is life. Like the ability to obey, the ability to listen to that voice, that still voice, that silent voice that's always trying to speak to us. But a lot of times we miss it because we're so busy. So you need the rest in order to be still enough to even hear that voice and what it's
Mhm.
telling you to do in any given moment. And all of those things really come down to the Lord loving us and caring so much for us that he desires obedience, not just for himself. It's not for him, but it's for our good. And that's just been really cool. So I'm really excited to see where this journey leads. And your new lifestyle, not new, I don't know if it's new or not, but
Yeah.
your ability to just travel and be free to listen to the voice and where it takes you. And then I'm really grateful for the fact that you're sharing it with us so that we can follow along on the journey. Um, I feel like I have so many other questions for you, but this girl also needs to take a nap.
Yeah, a lot of, like, gut feelings, is kind of how I navigate things now, and I always ask myself why I do things rather than just saying yes to things and rush things and do them. I ask why and, like, whose voice is that? Is that someone else's voice that's telling me to do it, or is it my voice? Like, I think that can be a thing that gets confusing. Like, for example, I had a business partnership with someone who was a mentor of mine for a year or 2, and I did some work for his business as well, and we were working together for 5 or 6 months, and it just wasn't working, and I knew, I'm like, "This isn't working, this partnership isn't working, we're not flowing, we're bumping heads, he's not seeing eye to eye with me, we're just thinking differently about the business, and I don't think this is working." So, he wanted to keep going and pursuing it and building it, but I knew, I'm like, I can't do this." I also realized that I don't trust myself enough. Like, that's one big thing that I've learned in the past year. I think also from the business failure, I've just completely, not completely, I've gotten better now, but there's this, like, subconscious belief that I can't do things alone and I won't be successful, so I just kind of, like, grabbed the nearest life raft, which was this business partner that I, collaborated with and signed a contract with, and again, like, I had a friend tell me, he's like, "I'm gonna be so honest with you, you do not trust yourself, and you need to believe in yourself, and you need to, like, go out there and do stuff for yourself because you can," and I appreciate friends like that because they're so honest, like, you need to have people like that in your life that don't you know, no fluff. I don't want fluff. I want you to be real with me, even if it hurts my feelings. And I realized that. And then I had this like illustration or this visualization come through that's like, a bird on a branch and there's like a bunch of branches below it and the branch breaks and the bird falls on the branch below. And it's like, oh my gosh, is there more branches? I need to, and they keep breaking. And then there's a bottom branch, so there's nothing below it and it breaks, but the bird has wings. And I feel like that's kind of how I've been for so long, as I'm looking for all these branches. And it's like I have these wings and I just haven't trusted myself to like fly and be on my own. So I think while the business and all of that has been a huge transformation for me in that sense, like I learned a lot of skills. I learned a lot about resilience and mindset and grit and fortitude and all this stuff that's very helpful in business. I also have this like personal healing journey alongside it. And now when I make decisions, I think it's so powerful to have faith and to have a strong intuition and use that as tools in business, because I think you're going to get so much further when you have it rather than just like rushing things and doing things and this is going to make me the most money, so I should go in this lane. Like those are not the things that are going to move the needle forward in your life, and you're probably going to end up on a different path, or you're not going to be fulfilled or joyful on that path if you do it for the wrong reason. So I think hopefully that answers the question.
OMG, yes, it answered the question and then some. And it gets me so excited to hear you say that because I think so many people don't trust themselves. Like it's something where we are constantly looking for the validation or we are seeking someone else to validate something that we've maybe again been purpose for, or having someone say well done. But at the end of the day, when we consider what happens after this life, or at the end of the day, will it be said of you like, well done, good and faithful servant? I think about that a lot, and recognizing that the ability to grow something while here is great, but how much better to know that what you're growing is good for this life, but also good for eternal life. You were talking about the illustration around the bird was so, so beautiful. Was that something that like a vision that you had or?
Yeah, it was really weird. I think I was journaling one day and then I like that thought came through and I was like, huh, this is interesting. And yeah, I never thought anything of it, but that kind of came through when my friends like, "You don't trust yourself." And then I, realized, okay, I'm looking for someone to save me and just kind of like clinging on to whatever can save me, and just realizing that that's me. Like that's kind of like an epiphany too, is realizing that you can do things and you don't need
Yes.
people. You don't need to rely on people. People are great to like help and support and like help you grow on your journey, but you are capable on your own as well. And you have to believe it. So that's, yeah, something I'm learning to do more of.
Yes. Oh my goodness. All right. So I remembered what the thought was, but it
Yeah.
brought up another question. Shout out to your friend that's a part of what I like to call your vibe tribe. Shout out to the
Mm.
real ones that are members of the vibe tribe who keep it real, keep it honest, but also encourage you along the way by empowering truth in your life and for the ability to receive it too. Cause that's another thing. I think sometimes people want the best for us and they state the things out loud, but based on where we are, if we're not in a season of surrender and allowing, the Lord to guide us and even allowing us to hear him speaking to us through other people, we can reject what he's trying to put in our hands, or even more so in our hearts, because that's where all of life flows from.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said about the fact that you were willing to open your heart and your ears to receive what was being said to you in that moment. But then the question that came up was, do you know what your spiritual gifts are? Do you have, because if you had a vision, that's like, there's a spiritual gift that's
I
tied
don't
to the girl.
know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see, I guess. This is the first time that I've let myself like slow down after so much busyness. And I had a business coach and he said, when the business shut down, he said this analogy. He's like, if I give you a glass of water and it has a bunch of dirt and sand mixed up in it, how are you gonna make it clear? And I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
just dump it out. Just dump it out and put in new water. He's like, no, you would wait for it to sit. Like you'd let it sit and then everything would go to the bottom. And he is like, the glass was me and the water was me. Like it was all these emotions mixed up and you can't think or see clearly because you're just busy and your mind's busy and you can't think straight, really. So you have to give yourself time to let everything settle. And I think it took like a year for me to do that. And now I've had all this stuff come through, and I'm like, wow, there's actually like it is silent, and I'm could sit in the silence, but there's stuff that comes out when I am in the silence, and stuff comes in when I'm in the silence, and it's not so bad. And it's actually kind of like pulling back a slingshot in a way, right? Like you pull it back and yeah, you're like not firing away, but you can go further because you have all this stuff coming through and you have the clarity and you have the messages. And I almost wish that I knew this sooner and that I gave myself permission to rest, because when I did rest, all I could think was, oh, like you're weak. You can't like take a day off. You should be out there working. You should be out there sampling. You should be investing more time in your business, and like just basically putting everything, all my needs and everything on the back burner for the sake of being successful and living up to the standard that a lot of entrepreneurs are pushing. Like I think we all know Alex Hormozy, like just like stuff like that, that I was consuming all of that content for so long. I didn't know that, hey, like shit becomes more clear and real when you disconnect from everything, from all worldly things. That's when stuff comes through. Yeah. It's crazy to think about.
Oh my gosh, it is. But girl, the journey is just beginning. Is
Yeah.
it okay if I like share a thing with you that you could potentially read that would be helpful and
Yeah,
maybe discerning what your spiritual gifting is right now? Um,
sure.
Actually, let me see if I can put her down and if she'll allow me 5 more minutes. I don't know if you've taken the time to read the book of Romans and I believe Corinthians, but in Romans 12, there is a listing of what the spiritual gifts are. And then there's also a second list that is in, I believe it's First Corinthians 12. Actually, I have my Bible right now. Let me look to verify. That passage in First Corinthians also talks about the spiritual gifts. But it's so cool because there's a set of 9 gifts that all of us have. The ones in Romans are the ones that all of us have. And those are something that are like the innate gifts that we have, like what people would attribute to like creativity or the way we live life. They're just things that God has given us, we're born with. But then the one in Corinthians, that list is a set of spiritual gifts that God gives. And like some of those gifts are like the power to heal. Another one is like the gift of knowledge. Another one is the gift of prophecy and the ability to speak in tongues. So it's really interesting when I hear people mentioning like, oh, I got a sight, because that's an actual thing that happens in the
Mhm.
Bibles. But the other thing that I would probably like to suggest, if you're open to it, is the book of Leviticus, because I can associate, and it resonates so deeply with me, the feeling of just the guilt behind wanting to rest. And I've
Mhm.
spoken about this extensively on different episodes of this podcast, and the guilt that I felt as a mom wanting to rest, the guilt that I felt as a wife with the choice to be a stay-at-home mom, even though my husband's never been like, get a job, like he's never
Mhm.
done that. But I think inherently just being a first generation American, the child of immigrants, being Nigerian American, a Black woman, just this idea of needing to constantly be like strong and go, go, go. When the Lord was like, I need you to rest. I'm like, but how? But how,
Mhm.
one, and but how, but why? And as I read the book of Leviticus, it just opened my eyes up to how much the Lord values rest. Like, he's serious about his rest, so much so that not only did he give the Sabbath day, but there's a Sabbath year that would come every 7 years that they were supposed to let the land rest, not even the people. God told the people that they needed to let the land rest and for the betterment of the land, but the land in service to the people. And then after that, he also mentions a year of Jubilee, which came every 50 years, which was basically like a year of freedom and restoration and revitalization, where everybody and everything was meant to do nothing. Like
Mhm.
even the animals were meant to rest, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
But everything was then being brought back to him in a way that would make everything better for the care of society. So again, this idea of obedience being one where God isn't doing it for our destruction or to keep us from like having the best life possible, but recognizing that when we obey, he provides for us and he cares for us. When you read Leviticus, it speaks about how, man, it's so cool. Like the Sabbath year, that's what it's called. When they were meant to take off the entire year, he even answers in what would be posed as a question of, well, if I take off a year and you're telling me not to work the land that gives me food, the land that is part of my business, the land that is meant to care for my family, how am I going to eat? How am I going to eat, Lord?
Mm-hmm.
And what the Lord does, it gets me so hyped. He tells Moses to tell the people, you will probably ask. And then he answers the question. And what he says to them is, if you're wondering what will happen, I will provide 3 years of a harvest in 1 year. So like he would prepare, he would give like bumper crops the year before what would be like the regular crops for the year that would have been the 6th year, but he would give
Mm-hmm.
enough for the 7th year, but then he would give so much that there would be enough left for the 8th year, which would be the year after the year that they took off, right? But not
Mm-hmm.
only that, in there, he tells them that food, the things that they would cultivate each year, were also meant to not only care for the people who own the land, but he even provided for orphans, widows, people who weren't a part of the land. Like you weren't meant to use up everything. So even the idea of working to the point of self-sacrifice, you cannot give what you do not have. So you are always meant to kind of leave a section on the outskirts of your land so that people would be able to reap from your abundance. We are meant to have
Right.
abundance, but we can't do that if we've used everything all up.
Mm.
So I don't know. I just felt very inclined to share that. I
Yeah.
think sometimes people read the book of Leviticus and they think it's so boring. It's just laws and statutes. But when you read it, you begin to understand the character and nature of God and the way that he is always caring for us and how he's been caring for us from the beginning of time, and how in doing so, it's not that he ever wants to take from us, but what he does is he desires obedience because of his love for us. And in recognizing that, the moment we begin to trust him and we desire to not only follow him and surrender to him, but like really giving him access to our hearts so that we can be led and guided, not by our desires, but by his
Mm.
desires, which by default are good desires. Like anything that we would desire for ourselves was something that he's planted in us anyway. So wouldn't he also be the one to best show us how to arrive at the things that he's leading us to? You know what I mean? And there's so much peace and joy and freedom in his process and his way versus our own. Because all of our ways of being brought to where we want to go are skewed by deception, you know, deception
Yeah.
and sin. Which leads to, unfortunately, like slavery, you know, because
Mm.
anything that controls you, if it's not making you free, is doing the opposite. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm really
Yeah.
grateful for this conversation. It has been way longer than I expected or anticipated. And I'm really grateful for your time. Second to last question I want to ask is, are there any faith or joy led practices that you currently engage in that sustain you in your journey?
I used to be really good with this, but yeah, I'm trying to get back to like daily prayer and just silent mornings, like scrollless silent mornings. I used to just wake up, not touch my phone. I bought this because I bought my first Bible like 5 months ago, 6 months ago. And yo, that thing's like 2,000 pages. Like, that is long. So I got like
Mhm.
the read the Bible in 52 weeks, like thing that you do alongside it. So I used to be really good at that. So I want to get back into doing that so I think I've read the first two or three parts, like Genesis, Exodus, and I don't know what the other one is after that. So I'm like
Yes.
slowly working my but church every Sunday, back when I was in Austin, I would go. That was like the highlight of my week. I think just not staying busy is the thing that I need to get more comfortable doing because I just tend to stay busy and I call myself like an adult iPad kid. Like I'm cooking dinner and I'm scrolling on my phone and it's like, can I just do things and just not have this not be stimulated, and then
Mhm.
that's when stuff comes through, like we talked about. Um, but just like, yeah, stop taking care of my body, working out, eating right, mindfulness stuff. I think all those
Okay.
things are meditation, and just trying to drown out everything. Yeah, because 'cause we're so stimulated with everything around us with especially social media, like, that's a big one. I had to turn off my notifications and just disconnect from that because that can be a lot coming in.
That is so good. I have a playlist if you ever want it. It's called the Journey Jams playlist if you wanna have
Oh, nice.
like yeah, just like time to just be with yourself and the Lord but
Yeah.
I also wanted to say that it's really beautiful that you prioritize not being busy because that is so one intuitive, I think, in this day and age, but also it's very counterculture. But what I really believe is that the Lord is looking for people who are willing to be flexible, but you can't have that flexibility if your calendar is packed, because you never
Mhm.
know where he's going to send you. You never know what conversations you could be engaging in if you're like constantly busy. And I just think that it's a really beautiful, not that it matters what I think, but I'm so grateful that you are open to this journey and this process and allowing us to participate by taking us along on the ride. So again, Erica, I want to thank you so much for your time. I want to thank you for your insights, for sharing your journey so openly and vulnerably. And if anyone is looking to contact you, get in touch with you, maybe work with you or follow your journey, how can they stay in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, accepting Erica, and then LinkedIn, Erica Rankin, and then my website's Erica Rankin.
Thank you. And lastly, are there any fun projects that you have going on that people should keep an eye out for, look for, check out, or tune into?
I guess just content. I'm gonna go all into content creation and spread more joy, I guess you could say. So that's what's up for me. And then, yeah, I might go to Europe. I don't know. I have never been, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah.
Wow, what a conversation, right? Oh my goodness. Erica's journey story is such a powerful reminder that freedom doesn't simply come from building a better life, it comes from surrender and coming back to the God who values your life and who knows you intimately and already loves you just as you are, more than you could ever ask or imagine. My prayer is that in listening to Erica's story, you're inspired to take a moment to slow down, pause, and reflect on your own life as you consider your vision for right now and how it may influence the journey ahead. I'm also super excited to share that since recording our interview while on her summer tour in Europe, Erica was indeed inspired and spurred into action for her next venture, a travel based app that she's calling Doozy. Erica and her co founder Jillian have created Doozy as a new creator platform for travel influencers. Think of it as TikTok meets TripAdvisor. The platform is designed for travel discovery, saving, and booking all through short form videos. It sounds really cool, right? As of the time I'm recording this episode, we're in February 2026. The platform is currently in its pre launch phase and looking for founding content creators. So if that's you, make sure you're definitely following Erica and the Doozy app on all social platforms. I'll be sure to include the links in the description box and the show notes. But aside from that, I must just say that it has been so inspiring and fun to watch Erica build this new business from the ground up. So, if you are someone who enjoys following entrepreneurs or if you're considering building a business of your own, I feel like just watching her is a masterclass in learning resilience when it comes to founding a business. But also, she shares really great tips about what it looks like to push through the fears and the considerations and sometimes the blowbacks and disappointments that come with starting a business. All of that said, before we go, if this episode resonated with you personally, I would love to hear from you. As you think back on Erica's story, ask yourself, what is one thing I've been using to cope that God may be asking me to let go of in this season? Who do I become when my life is built around productivity? And who could God be inviting me to become right now? Just a couple things to nibble on. You can share your answer in the comments, leave it in a review, or send this episode to someone who you'd like to hold you accountable to the vision you see for yourself moving forward. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on future conversations like this one. Until next time, keep living, leading, and loving from a place of rest and joy. And remember, we're on the journey together, one feel-good thing at a time. Bye. Thanks for tuning into another episode of the JOYrney To Purpose podcast. If you're ready to take what you learned today and put it into action, then friend, you might just be ready to take a Joy Quest, my step-by-step experience that is designed to help you reclaim your time, rest, and your peace without the guilt. Head over to ericalasan.com/joy-quest, or you can visit the link in the show notes to start your journey today. And remember, we're on the journey together, one feel-good thing at a time. Bye.